Today, the special request is for Mr. Dick Steele in celebration of his 83rd birthday. Happy birthday, Dick. This was requested by Karen Dornsteele. I'm going to read the dedication. This song is in honor of Dick Steele's 83rd birthday, dedicated by his wife, Karen Dornsteele. Dick and Karen met at Stanford in the 1960s and went separate ways for 2 decades until they were reunited in 1982 and married the next year. Dick has traveled the world living in dozens of cities from his boyhood Los Angeles to Moscow and Krakow. Karen has matched him in another dozen cities from Portland, Oregon to Paris and Rabat, Morocco. They have found their true home in Spokane and in this church. And the piece is Still the One by Orleans.
Well, good morning, everybody. Let's stand and sing. All right, yeah. I've got peace like the river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've
Right?
Wow. So I want to start first by thanking my wife Karen for that lovely dedication and for Jackie for that incredibly fine rendition of one of my favorite pieces, one of our favorite pieces. So, good morning. I'm Richard Steele, today's lay leader, and I welcome all to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane. This includes those of us who are here in the sanctuary, remote attendees who have connected to our streaming feed to watch the service, and those also who are using Zoom to participate interactively from locations around North America and beyond. We're happy that each and every one of you is here. Today we have a guest speaker, Reverend Craig Moro, who returns for the second, third, fourth, I'm not sure, I've lost count, but several times in our virtual pulpit. Reverend Moro is a graduate of the University of Chicago and of Starr King, the UU's theological seminary. He's lived and studied in India, in Singapore, in Thailand, in Japan, in the Netherlands, and he's ministered to churches in California, Illinois, Washington, and Oregon. He's a founding member of the Tri-Cities Interfaith Alliance and currently lives in Portland, Oregon, having recently been designated Minister Emeritus from the Y East UU congregation following 6 years of ministry there. Often in his sermons, Reverend Moro cites passages from religious texts in the original Arabic, Hebrew, or Tamil, and he is known for blending rigorous scholarship with plain speaking and humor. His sermon today on the intersection of science and religion is titled Gather, Count, Sort, Measure. Please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Reverend Craig Moro. Whether you are in our sanctuary today or watching from afar, it is here that we join to create a nourishing religious home with a mission to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world, or, as we say more concisely, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Now, please take a few minutes to greet one another. Great. We turn now from our informal greetings to formally begin our service by lighting our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individuality. May this small flame be an offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a beacon of hope to those in need. May it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it has been found. Since Reverend Moro will soon be speaking on issues at the intersection of science and religion, I observe that nobody has ever seriously advanced mathematically based evidence for the existence of God. But an equation known as Euler's identity has caused some to consider it an indicator in that direction. Less well known than its famous physics cousin, E equals mc squared, Euler's identity is equally succinct, but combines three unusual mathematical entities in an astounding relationship. These entities are, first, I, the imaginary unit of which I spoke 5 weeks ago from this pulpit, and it's defined as the square root of -1. Pi, of which this book is written. That's the ratio of the circumference to the diameter of a circle, and it equals approximately 3.14159, and so on. And E, the topic of this book, the base for natural logarithms, which equals approximately 2.71828. These latter two entities, pi and E, are both irrational numbers, meaning that the series after the decimal point continues ad infinitum without a repeating pattern. And the third term, I, the imaginary entity, corresponds to nothing at all in the observable world. In the 18th century, the brilliant Swiss mathematician Leonhard Euler proved that the quantity E raised to the imaginary exponential power I times pi is equal to -1. Of this, Benjamin Peirce, 19th century philosopher, mathematician, and Harvard professor, said, "It is absolutely paradoxical. We cannot understand it, and we don't know what it means, but we have proved it, and therefore we know it must be the truth." And writer Douglas Yuvan, in his 2023 book, Euler's Identity, Bridging the Mathematical and the Mystical, writes that the equation echoes deeper truths about existence, beauty, and the divine. Indeed, the identity provides inklings of existential relationships more profound, but we current mortals see only the surface result and can only speculate about deeper understandings.
All right, please stand again and let's sing together. There is more love. I know it's hard to, there's more love somewhere. I know that's hard to believe, but I think there is. We can create it.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love
Each time we gather as a congregation, there are always those who are with us in our hearts and minds, and whom we want to wrap in our love and care. We light a candle for them this morning. We light a candle for the people of Minneapolis, and indeed the entire country, for the mourning the death of the young mother of 3 killed by an ICE agent in that city. We light a candle for the people of Venezuela, whose land has been hijacked from the community of nations through a looking glass and into who knows where, some kind of Trumpian international self-enrichment scheme. We light another candle for the people of Ukraine, who continue to fight and defend their homeland against a Russian war of aggression. We mourn all the innocent victims of lawless, militarized violence everywhere on the globe, in Palestine, Israel, Lebanon, Syria, Iran, Nigeria, the Caribbean, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. We also hold in our thoughts all those in this country living in terror of those ICE raids, being conducted by masked, armed, and murderous goons acting without due process, warrants, or even basic humanity. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others who are here in our hearts. You are welcome to say their names, those named aloud, and those remembered in silence we hold in our community of compassion. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains this community and its mission to the wider world.
Thank you, Jackie. For today's story for all ages, I have a tale called Treasure Stones by Janine Grossmeyer. In a time not so long ago, and in a place not so far away, there lived a boy named Arthur Lismer. Arthur always had a pencil in his pocket because Arthur loved to draw. He drew clouds and birds and flowers. He drew many beautiful things. And he drew lots of pictures of stones. "Why are you drawing a boring old stone?" his friends would ask. "They're just gray. They're just rocks." "Stones are beautiful," Arthur told them. "Some stones have gold flecks. Some have tiny crystals. In the rain, the stone can change color, and in the sunshine, it can sparkle. Every stone's a treasure. Just look." Arthur drew anywhere, anytime. At breakfast, at school, on moonlit nights outside, on train rides, and even on Sundays in church. "Put that away," his mother would say, and Arthur would close his sketchbook and listen to the minister at the Unitarian Chapel in Sheffield, England, which is where this story takes place. But sometimes he was still thinking about drawing. When Arthur grew up, he went to a school just for artists. After he graduated, he tried to sell his drawings, but he didn't make much money. So when he was 26, Arthur left England and sailed across the Atlantic Ocean to Canada. He packed his clothes, his paper, and his pencils, and he went to see a new land. In Canada, the trees and flowers and animals were all new to Arthur, and all of them were beautiful. He traveled to mountains and prairies and lakes and rivers, painting what he saw. People liked his pictures. They liked seeing the world through his eyes. His paintings were like windows into the beauty of Canada that many people had never noticed before. Arthur also became a teacher. On Saturdays, he taught in a museum. People of all ages would come, and Arthur would talk a little about the paintings, and then he would ask, "What do you see in that painting? What do you think it means? What kind of beauty is there for you?" On Sundays, Arthur taught children at his Unitarian church. "Let's go outside," he would usually say. "Let's see what we can find." "I found a stone," a child said one day, "but it's just gray." "Let's see," Arthur said. He licked his finger and rubbed it on the stone. The stone turned pink and then purple and then gray again. "It's like a rainbow," the child said. Arthur took out his pencil and drew 2 small dots on one end of the stone and then a long curving line on the other. "It's like a mouse," the child said. Arthur turned the stone over so they could see all the tiny spidery lines in the cracks. "It's like a map," the child said. Then the sunshine came out and the stone began to sparkle. "Now it's silver and gold," the child said. "It's like a treasure." "It is a treasure," Arthur said. The child held the stone tightly, the stone that was a rainbow and a mouse and a map and a treasure. "It's my treasure stone," the child said. "I get it now." So I ask you, what kind of treasures will you see in our world today?
And our meditation today will be offered by Reverend Craig Moro.
Thank you for that lovely story. Thank you for the beautiful rendition medley from the Lord of the Rings. You'll see why why that was included. I had no idea. That's just like a special prize to me. My son loved it so much when he was a kid. But before I start today, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to give a little forward. I want to acknowledge a little bit more that this week's events have been hard on all of us, including my own family. Our son lives in Minneapolis, about 1 mile from where Renee Good was killed by an ICE agent. My wife participates in weekly orchestra rehearsals and frequent concerts at the Seventh-day Adventist Church and Hospital Complex, where another Portland husband and wife, immigrants from Venezuela, were shot on Thursday by federal agents. She'll be there tonight. Rehearsal isn't canceled. After the events of September 11th, 2001, I set aside my sermon for the following Sunday and tried my best to help lead a helpful conversation about what had happened before. That seemed like the best decision, the only one that made sense at the time. Tomorrow, I will be sending a letter to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune suggesting that Renee Good's survivors follow the example of Emmett Till's family on September 6, 1955, and hold an open casket funeral without cosmetic reconstruction in the Minnesota State Capitol Rotunda, if and only if that suffering family is completely willing to do so. You may share that suggestion with whoever you wish. But on today, January 11th, 2026, I will stick with the contemplation of science and religion that was announced in your newsletter, though I'm frightened knowing how many scientists there are in your congregation. I know I'm going out on a limb here. But religion at its best promotes human and even beyond human love. Science at its best promotes human understanding. Understanding and love, I can think of nothing that we need more of in the current storm of hatred, lies, and disinformation that insults our history, our feelings, and our intelligence. So with that, let's have a visit from our friend Rocky Raccoon.
Now somewhere in the backwood fields of Dakota lived a boy named Rocky Raccoon. One day his woman ran off with another guy, hit young Rocky in the eye. Rocky didn't like that, he said, I'm gonna get that boy. So one day he walked into town and booked himself a room in the local saloon. Rocky Raccoon checked into his room, only to find Gideon's Bible. Rocky had come equipped with a gun to shoot off the legs of his rival. His rival, it seems, had broken his dreams by stealing the girl of his fancy. Her name was McGill, and she called herself Lil, but everyone knew her as Nancy. Now she and her man, who called himself Dan, were in the next room at the hoedown. Rocky burst in, grinning a grin, and said, Danny boy, this is a showdown. But Daniel was hot, he drew first and shot, and Rocky collapsed in the corner. Ah, yeah. Da 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 ba da 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 ba da 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 ba da 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 The doctor came in, stinking of gin, and proceeded to lie on the table. He said, Rocky, you met your match. But Rocky said, Doc, it's only a scratch. And I'll be better, oh, as soon as I am able. Now Rocky Raccoon
Thank you so much, Todd. You really made that song your own. And, and also you made a song, about taking offense into something that was so uplifting and soothing. Well, people don't take kindly to insults to their religious sentiments, whether these are intended or unintended. I hardly need to tell you this after all the violence we've witnessed in reaction to the publication of certain books, or the burning of certain other ones, or to the appearance of certain movies, videos, or so many events. The list is very long. So imagine how people felt when Gideon, acting on what he believed to be the command of his God, Yahweh, went and destroyed a temple to their God, Baal. If you want to start a fight, this is a good way to do it. All the Midianites and the Amalekites and the people of the east who worship Baal came together, and crossing the Jordan, they camped in the valley of Jezreel. This is the Bible, Book of Judges. This was in order for that wrath of Gideon and to punish his people for allowing him to do what he had done. But the Spirit of Yahweh took possession of Gideon, and he sounded the trumpet, and the Abiezrites were called out to follow him. And he sent messages throughout all Manasseh, and they too were called out to follow him. And he sent messengers to Asher, Zebulun, and Naphtali, and they went up to meet them. All of this is pretty much what you'd expect in preparation for a battle. Gather your friends to help you face your enemies and get them as roused up as you can. But what comes next might sound strange. Gideon suggests something like an experiment to verify that his God is really going to help when the going gets tough. Then Gideon said to Yahweh, if you will leave us like you said, look, I'm laying a fleece of wool on the threshing floor. If there's dew on the floor alone, and it is dry on all the ground, then I shall know you will deliver Israel by my hands like you said. And it was so. Then he rose early next morning and squeezed the fleece. He wrung enough dew from the fleece to fill a bowl of water. No surprise that a fuzzy animal skin might pick up dew when left overnight on the ground. Now there's just one more thing you might try. Then Gideon said to God, let not your anger burn against me. Let me speak but this once, but please let me make trial one more time with the fleece. Pray let it be dry only on the fleece, and on all the ground let there be dew. And God did so that night, for it was dry on the fleece only, while the ground was wet with dew. There might be several reasons for this, I'm sure, besides divine action. But notice that no one says to Gideon, don't ask questions, don't experiment. You might find such warnings elsewhere in the Bible or in the wide world of what we call religion, but I know you won't find them at the UU Church of Spokane. Well, Gideon himself seems to be satisfied with the results of his divine atmospheric experiments. So let's go with those foreign stinkers. But now it's God who wants to run some tests before the battle can proceed. Yahweh said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hand, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, my own hand has delivered me. Now therefore proclaim to the people, saying, whoever is fearful and trembling, let him return home. And Gideon tested. 22,000 returned, and 10,000 remained. Now, did you follow that? If the people should win, God doesn't want them to think they did it by themselves through strength of numbers. That would be the wrong solution to this problem with the Easterners. So he has Gideon reduce the force by 2/3. That's a much more concentrated solution, so to speak. The remaining men are denser, more focused, less diluted or distracted by emotions like fear or presumed compassion. But are they dense enough to fight yet? The people are still too many, says God to Gideon. Take them down to the water and I'll test them for you there. And he of whom I say to you, this man shall go with you, shall go with you. And he of whom I say to you, this man shall not go with you, shall not go. So he brought the people down to the water, and Yahweh said to Gideon, everyone laps the water with his tongue, as a dog laps, you shall set by himself. Likewise, everyone that kneels down to drink. The idea is to concentrate the forces still further. How does it work out? The number of those that lapped, putting their hands to their mouths, was 300 men. But all the rest of the people knelt down to drink water. And Yahweh said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will deliver you and give the Midianites into your hand, and let all the others go home. So this series of gas and then liquid tests has left us with a solid core. 300 men who now defeat 120,000 enemies. After all of that concentration, whatever stuff was left must have really been the right stuff. At least that's what the Bible says. You've heard the Gideon Bible? The Gideons are an organization of Christian men, men only, who try to make sure there's a Bible in every motel and hotel room on the planet. Women can join an auxiliary. They see themselves as a modern version of that little concentrated corps from Gideon's army, a tiny group of heroes helping God to win the world. That means Gideon's God, of course. There's no Midianite Bible left to us, and no group of Midians working to slip it into drawers at every Motel 6. Just imagine if there were. Every road trip out of town could mean entering a battlefield of competing truth claims, like the ones that seem to divide religion from science these days. Discussions of religion and science can quickly fall apart when it comes to this matter of truth claims. Science or religion? Which offers more truth, better truth, bigger or higher or deeper truth? But what if instead of looking at claims and conclusions, we focus on some of the basic physical and mental disciplines that are crucial for both these powerful, organized human efforts to discover meaning in the world? Gideon's story provides some suggestions for how we might begin. We see the Midianites and Amalekites gathering to oppose Gideon's actions, and his own group gathering in response. The key action here is gathering. Can you imagine a serious scientific or religious enterprise that does not include the act gathering? If not at the beginning, then somewhere soon along the way. We gather 10 more commandments after gathering the people to hear them. We gather our samples of fish or stones or cells or frogs or ears of grain. What concerns us, and then we gather around it and share our observations. Gather and good both come from a common root that means to join or fit things together. We gather and we count. We might count up or count down. We might add to what was gathered first or subtract from that number. And Gideon do with the first 20,000 men who volunteer for battle. We have to decide on our units for counting. Should we count by ones or two in binary? Maybe by powers of 10? What or who counts for a whole unit or only a partial? Of whatever it is that we will be counting. So even as we count, we have already begun another kind of activity. We sort or compare. We must distinguish this from that, us from them. What or who is counted in or out? What goes into this set? What must go into another one? And what seems to fit into no set at all? Is there a set that holds all sets? We gather, count, and sort, and of course we also measure. How big can something be and still be what it is? How small? A breath? A wind? The whole great sky? When does a difference in size mean a difference in kind? Beyond big and small, what value can we discover in this or that? What's positive or negative? Gideon's forces are at last reduced to 300. That's their final concentration. Concentration is like sorting, though it might not be easy to see the discrete units in a gas or a liquid. As something becomes more concentrated, does that mean that it's more pure? And what's the value of pure versus mixed or blended? How do purity and concentration affect quality? How do they affect stability? What becomes more stable when it's more pure? What becomes less so? How stable is pure gold? How about pure sodium? Plutonium? How much religion is the right amount for things to stay stable? And how much is too little? Too much. Would Gideon's pure, super concentrated core of 300 warriors make for a stable community by themselves? Or must they be carefully diluted back into the population or things reach fission or fusion, some other explosive threshold state? To keep track of all this gathering, counting, sorting, measuring, and then concentrating, of course, we must take special care with memory. Religion and science both push us hard to remember and record. We want to be able to repeat results, to know what we did before so we can detect variation. Do it again. Science requires record keeping to become ever more complete and precise. Religion demands it too. Many people memorize their scriptures. Some Hindu priests would learn the Vedas forward first and then do it again backwards to make sure to get things right. To erase memory, to destroy books and records, to shut down laboratories or websites can be seen as crimes against science or religion, or even against humanity. Faking results or suppressing accurate ones. I don't know if you'd call these crimes or sins, or maybe both. It might be going too far to call Gideon's sheepskin a portable laboratory, but I think it falls in that ballpark. Can we have a show of hands? Show each other your hands if you've ever worked in a laboratory. It could be your work today or something you did in school. Can you call to mind some of the important controls and conditions you must maintain in order to do good lab work? What are they? You could call a few out. Now, how about a religious sanctuary? What do we need for that? What conditions do a proper sanctuary and a proper laboratory have in common? Maintaining a laboratory or a sanctuary are community efforts. And communities change over time in what we call generations. Generations of researchers or worshipers. It's not always clear where one generation stops and another begins, but a lot of sharing goes on between them. There are vital roles for both old-timers and newcomers in such an observant community, where generations pool their knowledge and refine it. Science and religion engender such observant communities and cannot thrive without them. What do you think? Is science more like work or play? How about religion? Well, sometimes both are fun, I hope, but an observant community is never really casual. From peer reviews to scattershot blasts from brash newcomers or grudging nudges from stodgy old codgers like me, submitting our findings to community scrutiny is always essential. And this means sometimes we need to make sacrifices. We must be ready to sacrifice what's as dear to us as an only son or daughter, a theory, an assumption, technique, or best practice that has served us well for generations. Both old codger and brash newcomer may weep and moan, but a time will come to let it go, to offer it up for a better future. The need to sacrifice at least some of his purest warriors is implicit in Gideon's story. It is explicit in so many other sacrificial stories. Abraham and Isaac, Jephthah's unnamed daughter in the book of Judges, countless mothers, brothers, sisters, and friends in the sacred tales of China, India, and beyond. But just remember, before declaring it's time for this to go, to take some time for a second look. Old ways often find new ways of proving themselves relevant again. Don't try a fresh moonshot without reviewing how they pulled off the last one over 50 years ago with something exponentially less power than one of these things. We gather, count, sort, and measure, record, and share, and compare, and remember. Release the old and receive the new, knowing that it too may be sacrificed when its time comes around. And we do this all in an attitude of reverent attention. If there's anything science and religion share, I think it's this attitude of reverent attention. I trust we're all pretty clear about what attention means. The tricky word is reverent. Reverent attention means maintaining a state of mind that's as honest as can be, as focused as can be, as undistracted and complete, and also as free as it can possibly be. A geologist friend, Frank Anderson, some of you there might know him, lived in the Tri-Cities, once told me that the best science is always done with a musical ear. A musical ear, Frank called it. That sounds right to me. The mental and emotional engagement of making or listening to music, that's close to what I mean by reverence. A loving attention to detail and to process as much as to any results. You can't do good religion or good science unless you do them with love. Not a soft or sugary kind of love, but something demanding, relentless, even fierce. Does that make at least a little sense? If not, blame my geologist friend. For my part, I've tried to put aside questions about any truth claimed in the name of religion or science, whether or not they agree with each other. I focused instead on similarities, approach, of attitude, or you might even say of spirit. But there's one more thing that science and religion share, and that's a common purpose, a common end. What is that end? To know everything that we want to know, or to do everything we want to do, either by means of human technique or the help of God? Or is it something much more modest? Think of those Gideons again, who travel around slipping Bibles into drawers and cubby holes wherever they can manage. They've been challenged for doing it at schools and military bases on grounds of separation between church and state, as well they should be. But they do it because they feel so very involved with all of the Bible's stories, not just the story of Gideon defeating 120,000 opponents with a super concentrated core of just 300 men. There's a greater story of which these are all a part. It goes back to the beginning, and it continues to the end of everything. Science is not intended to insult religious sentiments, nor should religion be taken as an insult to science. Religion and science are both ways of becoming involved with a story that is greater than our own. But perhaps I should say that they are ways of asking how we are already involved in such stories, for better or worse. Which brings me to a story to which I owe as much as I do to any scripture, although yes, it's like the kind of story that scriptures often tell. It's from J.R.R. Tolkien's great trilogy, The Lord of the Rings. Near the end of the second long book in that very long story, the hobbits, Frodo and Sam, pause for a while on their difficult journey to the land of Mordor and find themselves talking about, of all things, stories just like the one they're in. I don't like anything here at all, said Frodo. Step or stone, breath or bone, earth, air, and water all seem accursed, but so our path is laid. Yes, that's so, said Sam, and we shouldn't be here at all if we knew more about it before we started. But I suppose it's often that way. The brave things and the old tales and songs, Mr. Frodo, adventures as I used to call them. I used to think they were things the wonderful folk with stories went out and looked for because they wanted them, because they were exciting and life was a bit dull, kind of a sport, as you might say. But that's not the way of it. The stories that really matter, or the ones that stay in the mind. Folks seem to have just been landed in them, usually. Their paths were laid that way, as you put it. But I expect they have lots of chances like us of turning back. Only they didn't. And if they had, we shouldn't know because they'd have been forgotten. We hear about those as just went on, and not all to a good end, mind you, at least not to what folk inside a story and not outside would call it a good end. You know, coming home, finding things all right, though not quite the same, but those aren't always the best stories to hear, although they may be the best tales to get landed in. I wonder what sort of story we've fallen into. Have we fallen into a story that's good or bad? Good science and good religion are very cautious when it comes to answering questions like this. But they're both really good at offering us new ways to ask them. We call such questioning a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. That's how it's put in what used to be the fourth Unitarian Universalist principle, the one right in the middle. Free, responsible. That's the best way to approach what we do in a laboratory or a sanctuary. The best way to play in reverent attention. Play hard, play fair, play boldly like Gideon's men, but also play carefully and kindly. What sort of tale have we fallen into? I'm certain it's one that really matters, from which there's no turning back. May it also be one that's a joy to tell, whether or not it ever comes to an end. Amen.
All right, thank you, Craig. Okay, let's stand up and sing together. Blue Boat Home. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's okay.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. watch in wonder. Sing the sky my sailor song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
For our benediction, I offer the words of prominent American astronomer, planetary scientist, and science communicator Carl Sagan. Skeptical scrutiny is the means, in both science and religion, by which deep thoughts can be winnowed from deep nonsense. Amen, blessed be, salam alaikum, and shalom.